Nobody knows exactly how old Teotihuacan is, because there's pyramids inside of pyramids, and some people say 4,000, but it could be older, as old as 4,000 years. But chronologically, according to scientific methodology, about 200 BC, and maybe earlier 300 BC or so. And while like in the Mayan tradition, if you look at Palenque as an example, if I can remember right, it seems that Pakal the Great died around the 7th century AD, and Teotihuacan started declining around the 8th century AD. At Teotihuacan, they didn't have any glyphs within the architecture. They had, we call them petroglyphs, but they didn't have specific glyphs which like you do on the Tonal Poali or the Mayan Zolkin, where you have specific ideographs which mean a specific god or animal, which had a story behind it. They had like dots, or in the case of Chaco Canyon, they didn't have anything. They had spears of light.
Have your inquiries given you a sense that the Teotihuacanis and the Mayans shared a cosmology?
Absolutely.
And the glyphs weren't necessary at
Teotihuacan, exactly.
But the cosmology continued.
It continued.
And the representations in the Zonklan, for instance, were something that were continued in perhaps the oral tradition of Teotihuacan. Is that
exactly?
How would that work?
How would that work?
Right.
Well, you can see in the petroglyphs there that tradition, even though because of you can look at the numbers, certain sacred numbers that are involved. So you can look at the 4 directions. In other words, they didn't have specific glyphs, but they had like Maltese crosses which represented the 4 directions.
I guess the point is that you can go back further in the Mayan culture and down into South Mexico and say to Palenque, and there is a representational symbology of this cosmology that...
Absolutely. And you can go to Guatemala, you can look at the idea of the sacred cave, which represents the Xibalba Bay, or the Great Rift in the Milky Way. I mean, Linda Sheely and those scholars, when they were, and Dr. Coe from Harvard and Stewart and all those guys who translated all these glyphs. Well, once that was done, then the people could really understand the cosmology and the metaphysics of the Mayans. And if you understand that, then you could look at the traditions of the Aztecs and see how they interfaced. You have 20 glyphs, 20 day signs, and each one of those day signs represented a particular direction. And some are represented the east, some represented the west, some north and south. This is very confusing in the fact that if you had 5 glyphs, say in the northwest quarter, that didn't necessarily represent that they were all represented the northwest, because it depended on which god or animal or force was represented. And each one of these deities or naguals, which are the animals, or powers, which is rain or fire or water, had a specific deity which represented a specific color and a specific direction. Once you establish a center point, which is what we call where you have the 4 directions, and in the middle of that is the center point. That is the center of the world tree. That is where the world tree runs north and south from that point. Now, on the Piedra del Sol, that center point is the sun god Tonitua's nose. okay, is the center point. Then you start looking at, okay, the significance of north and the significance of south. You have in the east-west axis. East-west axis generally represents the equinoxes. The north-south axis generally represents the sun at its zenith. Now, it's very important. The sun is very important because in the Aztec tradition, the sun, all the planets spun off of the sun. The sun was the father of all of our planets. Mm-hmm. Okay, hence the importance of the sun. Once we have a center place established,
right,
okay, that is the center. From there, we can project out to the horizon all of the glyphs. Okay, now,
I mean, is this something that apparently has been done in this tradition of cosmology that we're discussing?
This is uniquely American. However, if one look goes back to the ancient Greeks, you can read about Plato and the fifth law, where he projects the zodiac out from a center point in 12 different, the great circle.
Horizontal regions.
Regions, exactly. So, but the sacred calendar, you have 20 glyphs which are projected out to the horizon. The Aztecs believed that there were 13 heavens, and those are all north. Mm-hmm. And the underworld consists of 9 levels. Mm-hmm. And let's just look at them as planes. And the highest plane was the outside of the circle, let's say, and that was the unmanifested, high Ometeotl's realm. I mean, because Ometeotl was the same as in the Hindu tradition, the unknowable supreme Parabrahma. Was it Ometeotl represented that high level of before duality. Everything else became dual after that. Mm-hmm. The physical manifestation of the universe, if that makes any sense at all. And Chaco Canyon, it started, okay, the center place, which is Pueblo Bonito, they started building it around at the latter part of the 8th century, around the 9th century AD. Just so it kind of, here starts Chaco Canyon as Teotihuacan is in its final decline, you know. This is kind of a coincidence. Cosmograms are on Fajada Butte and Sierra in Chaco. Uh-huh. And the cosmogram, which is located on Sierra Gorda, which is north of the Pyramid of the Moon, which is directly north of the Avenue of the Dead. Avenue of the Dead runs kind of a north-south, 15 degrees east of north.
In Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan. But then there's the Pyramid of the Moon, and then in back of that is Sierra Gorda, the hill. Uh-huh. Okay, so they had kind of it appears that these were two planning glyphs. Right. They were used to as like benchmarks or planning glyphs in maybe the development of the building of these cultures.